We now come to the last part of this course, teaching approaches and strategies in values education. This is already the module 4, our drills. Without further ado, let's get started. Number 1. Which of the following statements reflects an affective behavior in the valuing process? A. Makes good judgment of the situation she or he is in. B. Identifies the correctness of his or her own behavior. C. Affirms his or her choices publicly. And letter D. Repeats his or her behavior and becomes part of his or her lifestyle. The correct answer is letter. What's your answer, teacher? Yep, the answer is letter C. That's great. In the second criterion of the valuing process, which is praising, when a person is happy about his or her choice, a public affirmation usually follows. An affirmation makes the person feel proud of his or her values choices. Personal feelings and attitudes of the individual are components of an affective behavior. The options A and B, they use the first criterion of the valuing process, which is choosing. Both of them are in the cognitive domain of behavior, while the option D is in the acting level of the valuing process. Alright, number 2. After all the examination taken by the students in the first quarter, Miss Karen wants the second quarter to start where the students can have better concentration. What is the best strategy she could use to start the lesson in the second quarter? A. Rational discussion of a current social issue. B. Meditation and relaxation exercises. C. Moral dilemma discussion. And letter D. Action-oriented projects. What's your answer, teacher? The correct answer here is letter B. The correct answer is B. Please take note that the purpose of meditation and relaxation exercises is to make the students have a better concentration and relieve the stress they experience after taking all the examinations. Pagod pa ang utak. Okay, options A and C. They actually use critical thinking and may be too exhaustive. Nakakapagod ito on the part of the students who have just finished thinking about their examinations. Give them a break, come on. Option D is usually used as a strategy to culminate the lesson. It may not be effective to be given at the start of the quarter. Okie dokie. Number 3. Miss Anne would like to know if her students in class have internalized and practiced the value of honesty during examination. What is the best strategy she could use in the lesson or in their lesson to find out? A. Presenting a moral dilemma about cheating during examination. B. Giving a lecture about the do's and don'ts of cheating. C. Asking them to conduct a mini survey on cheating. And letter D. Encouraging them to emulate a model student who never cheats during the examination. There is already a clue, and the correct answer is good job, teacher. It's letter D. Right? It's letter D. Number 3 is letter D. The best strategy to internalize the value of honesty using the inculcation approach is through modeling, especially if the role model is consistent and practicing the values that he or she is emulating or teaching. Option A is presenting moral choices for the students to decide based on their moral reasoning. The strategy is not directly internalizing the value of honesty. Letter B, the option B, is also a strategy to internalize the value of honesty by presenting the do's and don'ts, but may not be the best, especially if the teacher giving the lecture is not credible or not consistent to the practice of the values that he or she would like the students to internalize, right? Doesn't walk the talk. He or she doesn't walk the talk. The option C is a strategy to start the process of values analysis and not a way of direct internalization. So number 3 is D. Number 4. Which of the following statements describes the best facilitator practice for values learning? A. Teacher M is talking too much and making herself the center of attention. B. Teacher C is getting defensive in answering the question of a student. C. Teacher D is allowing a student to dominate the class discussion. And letter D. Teacher A is treating all students as equals. And the correct answer is, yep, good job, it's letter D. Options A, B, C are worst facilitator practices. Okay, and then option D, yep, it adheres to the good principle of group facilitation, which is making everyone's opinion of equal value regardless of rank and position. Learners would learn best the value or values if they are given importance by the teacher because they are treated equals and their opinions are highly respected. Right? Number 4 is D. Next number. Mr. J is facing a problem with 2 equally important alternatives: stay in his native land with someone he loves, but have a simple life, or stay in a foreign land with a more convenient way of living. What could be the best teaching strategy that can be applied in the situation? A. Role-playing. B. Manipulating alternatives. B. Brainstorming. And letter C. Brainstorming. And letter D. Moral dilemma strategy. What's your answer, teacher? The correct answer here is letter D. Please take note that the best way to elicit a good response from the values learning of the students in this situation is to create a moral dilemma for them. To think about the problem and arrive at the best solution, following the best reason for making the right choice when confronted with a dilemma. Options A, B, and C are good strategies for clarifying the values of the students using the values clarification approach. That's number 5, letter D. Number 6. An approach in values education which is directed towards an active examination of students' beliefs, choices, and decisions to enable them to utilize this in their lives. A. Values inculcation approach. B. Moral development approach. C. Values clarification approach. And letter D. Values analysis. What's your answer, teacher? The correct answer is letter D. Values analysis. That's the correct answer. If you remember, in values analysis, the students use logical thinking and scientific procedures to investigate social issues in their immediate surrounding, right? In option A, values inculcation approach, the students are passive recipients of the values that the teachers judge to be desirable. In option B, moral development approach, although the students are actively expressing the reasons for values choice, there's a need for several options which somehow of equal value or equal importance. That's why we use moral dilemma here. In option C, the students are assisted through the valuing process to become aware of their own values or identify their own values and those of others. So the answer here is letter D. Values analysis. Okie dokie. Number 7. Which of the following indicators best describes an experiential teaching approach in values education? A. Promoting divergent and constructive thinking. B. Instilling internalizing desirable values. C. Facilitating structured learning experiences for self-direction. And letter D. Employing scientific methods and procedures in solving social problems. And what's your answer? The correct answer is letter Right. It's letter C. When we say experiential, we provide opportunities for students to experience by themselves the theory or practices that we teach in the lesson. Option C is the best indicator here. Options A and B are very cognitive and affective respectively, and they do not provide opportunities for a real-life situation experience. Option D is not experiential in a sense that the students do not go out to do something to solve certain social problems. Okay? Number 8. The most common and oldest strategy in teaching values. A. Cognitive analysis of issues and events. B. Direct inculcation of values. C. Solving moral dilemma. And letter D. Clarification of one's values. The answer here, teacher, is letter. Good job. It's letter B. Good job. So that's the most common and oldest strategy. So baka na-experience mo yan when you were elementary or in the grade school. I experienced that. So ito yung talagang nabato ka ng teacher. Yung mga punishment or yung papagalitan ka, mapapahiya ka, nagging, mocking. Para lang matutunan yung mga values. Diba? Rewards and punishment. So that's the oldest and the most common. Number 9. If a person reasons out that it is her or his conscience which defines what is right and what is wrong, the person is operating on what level of moral development? A. Pre-moral. B. Pre-conventional. C. Conventional. And letter D. Post-conventional. The correct answer is... very good. Letter D. Post-conventional. The highest level in Kohlberg's moral development theory is the post-conventional level. Okay, number 10. Which of the following best describes the values education teacher as a good facilitator of values learning? A. Clarifying students' values by processing the cognitive and affective learning. B. Providing more cognitive inputs through lecturate. C. Directing the values of the students by putting across what he believes in. And letter D. Allowing a student leader to lead the values learning of his or her classmates. So what is your answer? What's the best describes? The answer is letter right. Good job. It's letter A. Option B is very teacher-centered. Yep. And seems to indicate that there is no facilitation going on. Option C and D are worse facilitator practices. 10 is A. Number 11. The group facilitation theory of values learning is anchored on the belief that human beings have a natural eagerness to learn. B. Human beings are capable of self-actualization. C. Human beings have the capacity to learn through imitation and observation. And letter D. Human beings learn when the senses are stimulated. And the correct answer here is letter. What's your answer, teacher? Right, good job. It's letter A. If you remember, facilitation theory, which was developed by Carl Rogers and others, facilitation theory believes that human beings have a natural eagerness to learn and that there is some resistance to and unpleasant consequences of giving up what is currently held to be true, and that the most significant learning involves changing one's concept of oneself. Option B is a belief of Abraham Maslow, who is a major proponent of values clarification approach. Self-actualization. Option C is a belief of Albert Bandura in his observational learning or social learning theory, which characterizes the values inculcation approach. And option D sounds like an empiricist belief that states that knowledge comes only primarily from sensory experience. Yan yan. Very empiricism. Very empiricist. Sounds like empiricist, okay? So number 11 is letter A. Number 12. Which of the following chiefly characterizes a clarifying response strategy? A. It is a form of discussion strategy. B. It is used for students with emotional problems. C. It is an interview process. And letter D. It challenges students to reflect on their values. And the answer here is... Yep, CRS. The answer is good. It's letter D. The CRS, or Clarifying Response Strategy, which is a strategy used in values clarification approach, is the most flexible and effective strategy in encouraging a person to introspect about his or her own values. Option A, it sounds like a moral dilemma strategy. It's a form of discussion strategy, right? Option B can be a counseling or peer counseling. Option C is, of course, an interview that can be used in action projects or community outreach projects, something like that. So number 12 is letter D. Number 13. Which statement does not describe the action learning approach of teaching values? A. Students discover and act on their values. B. Scientific methods and procedures are employed to solve community problems. C. Moral learning extends to experiential learning in the community. And letter D. Values develop as a result of interplay between the students and society. So, which statement does not describe the action learning approach? And the answer here is letter. Good job. That's letter B. Options A, C, and D describe the action learning approach to teaching values. And option B describes values analysis. Okay? So the correct answer is letter B. It does not describe the action learning theory or approach. Next is number 14. A student who is in the choosing level of being fair and honest. A. Accepts the intrinsic value of being fair and honest. B. Manifests fairness and honesty in his or her behavior. Feels proud of responding to situations honestly and fairly. And letter D. Chooses to be fair and honest given no choice. And the answer here, teacher, is yep, good job. Number 14, the correct answer is letter A. Option B is in the acting level. Option C is in the pricing level. And option D is in the choosing level, but choosing must be done with alternatives, if you remember. In option D, we see that a student has no other choices or options as alternatives. So the correct answer, the best answer here is letter A. Number 15. The transpersonal approach is good for values development, specifically in A. Clarifying the value positions of the learner. B. Transmitting the more desirable values of the society. C. Developing logical and creative thinking. And letter D. Developing higher level of consciousness and spiritual upliftment. Your answer, teacher, is the keyword transpersonal. Yup, good job. Spiritual upliftment. Option A is good for what? Values development, specifically in moral dilemma or moral developmental approach, if you remember. So the student takes position. So moral developmental approach yan. Option B is good for values development, specifically in values inculcation approach. And option C is good for values development, specifically in values analysis approach. Okay, so the best answer is letter D. Now, number 15 is D. Next number 16. Mr. V, not Michael V, wanted to teach the value of gender fairness to his students. To do this, he made personal interviews of selected women, tape recorded their responses, and asked the class to listen to the voice tape. What strategy did Mr. V use? A. Devil's advocate. B. Case analysis. C. Vignette. And letter D. Dialogue strategy. And your answer is letter Devil's advocate is wrong. It's vignette. The correct answer is C. What Mr. V did were parts of the descriptions of vignettes that include anecdotes, scenes or scenarios, sketch, illustrations, engravings, novelettes, designs, stories, and pictures. And part of this is what Mr. V did. The devil's advocate is a person who expresses an opposite opinion in order to provoke debate or to test the strength of the opposing arguments. Case studies, case analysis, and dialogue can be used in values clarification or in any approach where they are applicable. Number 17. To instill the value of fairness to the students, what could be the best inculcation strategy a values in education teacher can use? A. Modeling. B. Negative reinforcement. B. Behavior modification. And letter D. Storytelling. And the answer here is nagsusumigaw. Ang clue is modeling. Right, the correct answer is A. Model or modeling. Options B, C, and D are also inculcation strategies, but the best strategy considered is modeling, especially if the teacher demonstrates credibility and consistency. 17 is A. 18. A person who has reached the highest level of moral development should A. Do the right thing out of fear of punishment. B. Do the right thing out of conformity to the law. C. Do the right thing out of dictates of his or her conscience. And letter D. Do the right thing out of expectations for some rewards. And your answer, teacher, is letter right. Good job! Letter C. The correct answer is C, which is the post-conventional level, and which is the universal ethical principle orientation, if you remember. Option A is in the pre-conventional level, which is the punishment and obedience orientation. Right. And option B is in the conventional level, specifically the law and order orientation. And option D is also in the pre-conventional level, specifically the instrumental relativist or the self-benefit orientation. Yep. You scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. So may kapalit. Quid pro quo. Number 19. In facilitating values learning in the classroom, the following elements of the andragogical process must be considered, except A. Setting the physical environment as well as the psychological atmosphere. B. Involving learners in diagnosing their own needs. C. Involving learners carry their learning plans. And letter D. Starting with a structured learning situation as a springboard for learning. What's your answer, teacher? And the answer is very good. It's letter D. Options A, B, and C are all elements of andragogical process except option D. You know, if we start the class with a structured learning situation, it defeats the principle of andragogical process that requires learners to be involved in mutual planning, formulating, and designing their learning plans. Okay, so 19 is D. That's the exception. Excuse me, number 20. Miss M would like to solve the problem of tardiness and absenteeism of her students. She would like to teach the value of coming on time. Which of the following strategies would be more effective to use? A. Use punishment for students' tardiness and absenteeism. B. Use role modeling and always start the class on time. C. Use clarifying response strategy. Ask for their reasons why they are coming late. And D. Use a storytelling strategy. Give the consequences of their behavior. Number 20. What's your answer? The answer is... Right! Good job! Nandiyan yung clue natin. Modeling. Role modeling. Options A, B, and D are inculcation strategies. And the best among them is modeling. Option C is a values clarification strategy. And it doesn't ensure effectiveness in solving the problems of tardiness since the students will just reflect on the reasons why they are late. So number 20 is B. Next number. The basic assumption of this major approach in values development is that learners have their own value system and the teacher is only needed to help them discover their inherent values. A. Values clarification approach. B. Moral development. C. Values inculcation. And letter D. Values analysis. And the correct answer here is letter... Good job! In values clarification approach, the teacher helps the students become aware of and identify their own values and those of others. Okay? Meron na sila. Tutulungan lang natin na maging aware sila sa values nila. That's letter A. Next number. When a teacher presents a problem or a conflict situation with two equally important alternatives to choose from, she is implying what approach in values development? A. Values analysis. B. Values clarification. C. Moral development. And letter D. Values inculcation. And the answer here is letter... Values analysis is wrong. It's letter C. Yup, the correct answer is C, specifically moral dilemma, which presents two equally important alternatives or options to choose from. Number 23. A teacher who infuses desirable values concepts through her subject matter is employing what approach in the teaching of values? A. Values inculcation approach. B. Values integration. C. Values clarification. And letter D. PNU ACES approach. What's your answer, teacher? Yep, the answer is... Yeah, good job. The correct answer is B. Values integration, which is a process of incorporating or blending or infusing desirable values through the subject matter. Options A, C, and D are teaching approaches and strategies in values education. Number next. The following are true of the values education teacher roles in the valuing process except A. Initiating dialogue with the learners on certain value issues. B. Inviting learners to look into their actual behavior. C. Expanding the learner's perspective in order to arrive at more informed choices. And letter D. Directing the learners of their terminal value choices. The best answer here is letter... Very good. The correct answer is D. It is not the teacher's role to direct the learners to their terminal values choices in the valuing process. The teachers may expand the learner's way of looking at things so that they may arrive at more informed choices. So their own choice, not the teacher's choice. Okay, so options A, B, and C are all included in the teacher's roles in the valuing process. 24 is D. Next number. Which is the best strategy to integrate the value of spirituality across all subjects in the curriculum? A. Natural integration. B. Vertical integration. C. Horizontal integration. And letter D. Eclectic integration. What's your answer, teacher? Yep, good job. Horizontal integration. The correct answer is letter C. Horizontal integration. Option A is a process of natural way of integrating values through the subject matter or activities in the lesson. Option B is the process of integrating values in all levels from the lowest to the highest level of education, like from kinder to grade 12. All levels. That's a vertical. And option D, eclectic, is the process of integrating values using two or more schemes, like two or more different types of media from different fields of studies in order to emphasize the values being integrated in the lesson, or the values that we want the students to learn or to emulate or to demonstrate. Okay, so number 25 is letter C. We're done. Great. So please count your scores. If you check your scores, if you answer this before we rationalize, so yeah, please count your scores. How many did you get? Please comment them in the comment section. I would like to know. I mean, I would be happy to see the outcome of your effort. So please let me know. All right. So that's 25 items. 25 over 25. Did you get the correct all the correct answers? That's amazing. Congratulations. So that's the module 4, our drills. Okay, dokie. And to give you a quick recap and the closing of this course, so here are the things that we learn in this course. So we learn in the module 1 the theory and practices in facilitation, which has 2 modules: the facilitation theory, facilitation, and values education. And then we studied valuing process with 2 lessons: the valuing process and sub-processes, and the valuing process model. And then we studied approaches and strategies in teaching values education. So it has 8 lessons, since this is the meat and substance of this course. So we learned the values clarification approach, the moral or cognitive developmental approach, values inculcation approach, and then in lesson 4 the values analysis, and then lesson 5 we studied action learning approach, and then the transpersonal approach, and then the PNU ACEs approach, and lastly the values integration in subject areas. And then of course we just finished the drills, which you got perfectly amazing. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please drop us a message. Shoot your message through email if you prefer email at inquire@teacherdoms.net, or if you prefer social media like Facebook, so you can drop us a message on our Facebook page so we can respond to you as soon as we read your message. Please do like and follow our Facebook page, and please subscribe to our channel Teacher Doms for more videos and updates. And for more relevant courses, exercises, drills, articles, practical ebooks, and the digital products, please check our website teacherdoms.net. You will see beautiful and practical ebooks related to self-development, professional development, self-improvement, and business-related ebooks in a very affordable prices. And once again, thank you very much. I hope we help you in our own simple way to strengthen your foundation on values education. So I wish you all the best. This is Teacher Doms. God bless you.